Good evening. Global pop superstar Katy Perry is tonight at the centre of a police investigation over bombshell claims of sexual abuse inside a Melbourne nightclub.
There are moments in Hollywood history when an empire does not fall slowly. It falls all at once. One post, one accusation, one police confirmation, and suddenly everything a celebrity spent decades building starts to crack from the foundation up. That is exactly where Katy Perry finds herself right now. And the situation, by any honest measure, is not improving. To understand the full weight of what is happening, you have to step back and look at the career that is now under threat. Katy Perry was not just a pop star. She was a phenomenon. She broke chart records that had stood for decades. She sold out arenas on every inhabited continent. She built a public image so polished and carefully controlled that it seemed almost bulletproof. For years, the worst things people said about her were that her albums were too poppy or that she recycled melodies. That was the level of criticism she faced. It was manageable. It was survivable. What is happening right now is something entirely different. Katy Perry is now under investigation by Australian police following graphic sexual assault claims from Ruby Rose. That sentence, reported by The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, CNN, Deadline, NBC News, and nearly every major outlet in the English-speaking world, is now the defining sentence of this chapter of her career. And for Perry's team, no amount of careful language or strategic silence is making it go away. Let us start from the beginning. The allegation stems from an incident Rose said occurred in a Melbourne nightclub in 2010 that Perry has since denied. Rose came forward with the allegation on Sunday night, writing on Threads that Perry had allegedly sexually assaulted her at a club in Melbourne when they were both in their early 20s. Rose is now 40 years old, and Perry is 41. Rose did not come forward quietly. She did not send a letter to a lawyer or leak through an intermediary. She went directly to social media in the middle of a conversation about Katy Perry's commentary on Justin Bieber's Coachella performance, and she said what she said in plain language for the entire world to read. In posts on Meta-owned Threads, Rose claimed Perry saw me resting on my best friend's lap to avoid her and bent down, pulled her underwear to the side, and rubbed her disgusting vagina on my face until my eyes snapped open and I projectile vomited on her. The post was specific, it was graphic, and it named the venue. She named it as the Spice Market nightclub in Melbourne CBD. That specificity mattered, because specificity is what separates a vague grievance from a formal legal matter. Rose wrote that she had turned the story into a funny little drunk story because she did not know how else to handle it, and said she had kept quiet partly because Perry later helped her get her United States visa. That detail is important. It describes a power dynamic. It describes a situation in which a younger person with less industry standing stayed silent because someone with more power had done something that made her financially and professionally dependent on staying quiet. That is not an unusual story in the entertainment industry. What is unusual is the decision, nearly 2 decades later, to finally tell out loud. Though Rose previously said she wasn't interested in filing a police report about the alleged incident, she confirmed in a Threads post Tuesday night that she had finalized all of my reports and would no longer be able to comment, repost, or talk publicly about any of those cases or the individuals involved. Rose added that this was a standard request from the police and that in many ways it was a relief. She said she could finally start the healing process. Then she went silent. That silence, for anyone watching closely, was not the silence of retreat. It was the silence of someone who had handed a matter over to the proper authorities and was now waiting for the machinery to move. And the machinery did move. Victoria Police confirmed that detectives from a sexual offenses and child abuse investigation team are examining a historical sexual assault that occurred in Melbourne in 2010, but have not publicly identified those involved. In the Australian state of Victoria, where the alleged assault took place, there is no statute of limitations on reporting a sexual offense. That is the legal reality that changes this entire situation. In many countries, a case from 2010 would be untouchable simply because too much time had passed. In Victoria, that door never closes. The case can be investigated today. It can be charged today. It can theoretically be charged in 20 years. Time is not the enemy of this investigation. The unit now handling the case, SOSIT, is not a general policing team. It was built specifically for exactly this kind of investigation. Its detectives are specially trained. They work alongside trauma counselors and forensic specialists. They use recorded evidence procedures designed to protect the integrity of survivor testimony. When Victoria police assign something to Saucet, they are not filing it away. They are treating it seriously. Now let us talk about how Katy Perry's side responded, because the response itself is worth examining in detail. The allegations being circulated on social media by Ruby Rose about Katy Perry are not only categorically false, they are dangerous, reckless lies, her rep said. Ms. Rose has a well-documented history of making serious public allegations on social media against various individuals, claims that have repeatedly been denied by those named. Every word in that statement is doing a specific job. The word categorically eliminates any middle ground. The word reckless establishes a frame around Ruby Rose's mental state. And the reference to a well-documented history is designed to establish a character pattern. This is not the language of someone venting frustration to a journalist. This is language written for a courtroom. It is the kind of statement you draft when lawyers have reviewed every syllable before it goes out. What makes the Australian legal landscape so significant here is that it operates differently from the United States. In Australia, the burden in a defamation case falls on the person who made the statement to prove it was true. Perry's representatives strongly denied the claim, calling the accusation categorically false and reckless. But if Perry's team ever files a defamation suit in Australia, Ruby Rose would be required to demonstrate the truth of her account. That is a harder task than it sounds when the primary venue closed its doors forever and surveillance footage from 2010 has been gone for over a decade. And yet Ruby Rose has publicly stated she has photographs from that night. She has named witnesses. She has named the person on whose lap she was resting. Those are the kinds of details that give investigators somewhere to start. To fully understand why this case feels so significant, you have to understand the timeline of Ruby Rose's career and her relationship to public storytelling. This is not her first time at the center of a major public dispute. Her departure from the television series Batwoman in 2020 was followed by a series of serious allegations she made against the production. She accused producers and an executive of creating a hostile work environment. Warner Brothers fired back, calling her version of events a revisionist history, and said she had been let go based on multiple workplace complaints against her. That dispute ended without legal resolution, and it gave Perry's legal team material to work with. When Perry's representative described a well-documented history of making serious public allegations, that Warner Brothers dispute is exactly what they were pointing at. But here is where the situation becomes more complicated for Katy Perry's side. Because Ruby Rose is not the only person who has made a public allegation about Katy Perry's conduct. She is not even close to being the only one. And once her Threads post went viral, the internet did what the internet does. It pulled every single prior account back into circulation at the same time. A story told by Anna Kendrick more than a decade ago about Katy Perry touching her inappropriately at an industry event has resurfaced online, following fresh and graphic allegations of sexual assault made against Perry by Ruby Rose. During a 2014 appearance on Conan O'Brien's talk show, actress Anna Kendrick recalled what she described as a weird encounter with Perry at the Grammys. Katy Perry finger-banged my cleavage, the actress told Conan O'Brien as the audience laughed. At the time it aired, it was a punchline. The audience laughed. Conan laughed. Kendrick herself laughed through it. But the same clip, circulating in April 2026, lands completely differently. The laughter has not aged well. What once read as a light celebrity anecdote now reads as a woman describing a bodily boundary violation that she normalized in order to survive a late-night television segment. Kendrick has not made any new comment following the resurfacing of the clip. Then there is Josh Kloss. In 2010, male model Josh Kloss played Katy Perry's love interest in her iconic track Teenage Dream. 9 years later, he slammed the production as one of the most confusing, assaulting, and belittling jobs he had ever done. The model alleged that Perry pulled his Adidas sweats and underwear out as far as she could to show a couple of her guy friends and the crowd around them his penis. Can you imagine how pathetic and embarrassed I felt, he wrote. His post was later deleted. 2 of Perry's friends publicly pushed back and characterized Kloss as obsessed with her. Perry herself never personally responded. What she did say in a subsequent interview that same day was that the world should all try to be kind. A sentiment, not a denial. Russian TV presenter Tina Kandelaki claims that Perry approached her while allegedly intoxicated at a private party and attempted to kiss her without consent. Once I was invited to a private party with Katy Perry, where she, being pretty tipsy, chose me as an object for the manifestation of her passion, Kandelaki told Russian media outlet Starhit. I managed to fight back. Strength training was not in vain, and Katy instantly found a new victim for kisses, hugs, and dirty dances. That account was reported in Russian and Georgian media before slowly making its way into the English-language press. Perry's team never responded to it at all. And then there is the case of Benjamin Glaze. In 2018, Perry was criticized for kissing American Idol contestant Benjamin Glaze on the lips without warning after he revealed he had never been kissed. Glaze later said he was uncomfortable and was saving his first kiss for his first relationship, but he stressed he did not consider the moment sexual harassment. Whatever Glaze's personal framing, the moment exists on video. It shows a young man saying he had never been kissed, being called to the front of a television stage, and having a celebrity judge kiss him on the lips without his consent while cameras rolled for a national audience. The audience cheered. The judges laughed. It was treated as a charming moment. That footage is now being watched with entirely different eyes. When you line up all of these accounts side by side, a pattern becomes visible that no single story could reveal on its own. Every account involves a public setting. Every account involves someone who had significantly less power than Katy Perry at the time it happened. Every account involves alcohol or a staged environment where the other person could not easily object. And every single time, the response from Perry or her team follows the same playbook. Silence or a denial through a representative or a tweet about kindness. Never a personal address. Never a direct engagement with the person who came forward. In April 2026, Perry faced attention after actress Ruby Rose publicly accused the singer of sexually assaulting her in Melbourne nearly 20 years ago. But the story is no longer just about Ruby Rose. It is about everything that had been sitting in the public record for years, waiting for a moment to cohere into something more than a collection of footnotes. That moment has arrived. The question everyone is now asking is the most consequential one of all. Where does this go from here? Legally, the case is in the hands of Saucet detectives in Melbourne. Their job is to determine whether the evidence they gather is sufficient to send a brief to the Office of Public Prosecutions in Victoria. That office, not the police, makes the decision about whether formal charges are filed. No formal charges have been filed in the case as of this recording. But absence of charges does not mean absence of investigation. The investigation is confirmed, active, and ongoing. There is also the question of extradition. Australia and the United States have a functioning extradition treaty that covers sexual offenses. If Australian authorities were ever to file formal charges against an American citizen, they could formally request that the person be sent back to Australia to face those charges. The process is not quick. It is not guaranteed. But it is real. It has been used before. The machinery exists. Whether it ever reaches that stage depends entirely on what Saucet detectives find as they work through witness accounts, photographs, and the records that still exist from a night 16 years ago. What compounds all of this is the broader context of Katy Perry's recent career trajectory. Her 2024 album, 143, was critically dismissed. Her collaboration with producer Dr. Luke drew significant backlash given his history with singer Kesha. In April 2025, Perry was among 6 women who traveled on Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, which sent the crew to the edge of space, and the internet treated the journey as a symbol of celebrity excess during a period of economic anxiety. She split from actor Orlando Bloom after nearly a decade together. She is now publicly linked with former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Her world tour, called the Lifetimes Tour, has been the one consistent bright spot, reportedly earning well over $100 million. But the public image that surrounds a financial success has been deteriorating for 2 years before any of this started. So when Ruby Rose posted that accusation on April 12, 2026, she was not just throwing a stone at an untouchable monument. She was throwing a stone at a structure that had already developed visible cracks. The question is whether the stone hits something load-bearing. Here is what makes this case genuinely unlike almost anything we have seen in celebrity scandal history. The alleged incident happened in August 2010 in a basement nightclub in Melbourne, 2 months before Instagram even launched. There are no geotagged uploads. There is no digital trail. There is no live video. The record of that night lives almost entirely inside the memories of the people who were present. That makes it extraordinarily difficult to prosecute. It also makes it extraordinarily difficult to definitively refute. What exists is a 2011 magazine column in which Ruby Rose described the same night in a completely different way, presenting it as a funny drunk story about falling off the wagon. Perry's legal team will point to that column as the real account. Rose has explained the gap by describing the power dynamic that kept her silent and kept her reframing. Both of those things can be simultaneously true in ways that do not resolve neatly into a verdict. What is not in dispute is this: a police investigation is real and confirmed by multiple senior outlets, including CNN, Variety, NBC News, The Hollywood Reporter, and Deadline. A specialist unit trained specifically in sexual offense cases has been assigned to look into what happened on a night in 2010. A state with no statute of limitations on sexual offenses has opened its books. And a woman who stayed quiet for nearly 20 years has finalized her statements with police and gone silent in the way that people go silent when they believe the process is now being taken seriously. Things aren't looking good for Katy Perry. The investigation is real. The pattern is visible. The witnesses are out there. And the clock, for once in this story, is not on Perry's side.